In the wakeful, our body, mind, everything is functional, active. In the dream state, the bodily parts, karmendriyas are not, gyanendriyas are not functional, but the mind is still active. Swapna, the mind is still active. And the internal organs are also active because the vision, sound, everything is there in dream, whatever we have in the wakeful state. So the outer gross indriyas are not functioning, but the inner subtle indriyas are all functioning. Because unless the cortex that, suppose I see this thing, microphone, there is an electrical signal in the visual cortex. So when in dream we are dreaming a microphone, same signal can be, I am sure about it, let the scientists find out. The same signal will be there in the visual cortex. So that is the inner indriya we talk about. In the Shastras they speak about the subtle indriyas. This is the subtle indriya we have. So they are active in the dream state. In Sushupti, neither the mind nor the indriyas, everything is sleeping. So there is no signal coming at that time, even in the internal indriyas also, there is no signal. That is called Sushupti. So you don't know anything, except that I still reveals that I am not knowing anything. Not that I am not knowing anything. When you get up, you feel that I have not known anything. You will not be able to measure time there, how long I have been in Sushupti, because time means there is a change. Without change there cannot be any time. If you remain in Sushupti for 1 year also, you will not be able to distinguish from a Sushupti of 1 hour, except seeing the external situation after you get up. Because there is no signal at that time, no time for you at that time. So it is like that. Samadhi, you can call, as Swamiji says, that it is a wakeful sleep. Wakeful sleep. But what it is in actuality is, in Samadhi, all the faculties are awake, but they are not functioning. Suppose you are sitting now, your legs are not functioning, but you can move the leg. There is no problem in moving the leg. If you are sleeping, you will not be able to move the leg. When I am asking, you will not be able to move the leg if you are sleeping. But now, if you need, you can move the leg. So the leg is awake, but it is not moving. Like that, all the faculties are awake, including the mind, buddhi, everything is awake in Samadhi. But they are not, they are all still. This definition is there in Kathopanishad, I have told earlier also. The shloka is Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhishtana vicheshtati tamahu paramam gatim. Tamahu paramam gatim. This is the supreme state. What is that? Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha. When all the 5 indriyas along with the mind avatishtati. Avatishtante. That means they are all sitting still. They can move, they can do, but they are not doing. Buddhishtana vicheshtate. There is no effort in the buddhi also. Because buddhi will try to understand, is this samadhi or is this not? That is an effort of the buddhi. So that also will not be there. Have I known? Is this an experience? No, nothing. The buddhi has to be absolutely functionless. There won't be any signal at all. Even you will forget your own body-mind complex that I have I am sitting for meditation, I want to get into samadhi, that no vritti at all. It is completely free of all vrittis. Vritti means the formation in the consciousness. Even the concept of God, concept of Brahman, all will go finally. That is called the Paramam Gatim. So they can do, they are not sleeping, but they are all still. Why it is called like this? Because whenever some signal is there, that signal is being revealed by the consciousness. Do you agree? This microphone I am seeing, unless it appear in my consciousness, I will not be able to see it. I will not see it. Whatever I am perceiving, they are appearing in my consciousness. The consciousness has to reveal them. Even if it is a thought, an emotion, unless the consciousness reveals the thought, I will not know the thought. So the revealer is the consciousness, and revealed is the either a gross object or a subtle object of thought, emotion, anything. It can be external gross object or internal subtle object. Now, whenever the consciousness is revealing something, our focus is on what is revealed, we miss the revealer. You get it? We miss the revealer consciousness because by nature, by birth, we are always focusing on something external, something different from me. So our focus is on what is revealed. If it is a thought, the mother's thought has come. Immediately our focus is on mother's thought, mother's dream. But that which is creating the dream, creating the thought, we miss that revealer. So whenever the consciousness is revealing anything, either a gross object or subtle object, the consciousness is getting engaged in that revelation and we see the revealed part, we don't see the revealer. Now when there is no signal at all, the consciousness is not revealing anything at all, then we know what it is, the revealer, it reveals itself. Not as a different something that this is consciousness. Consciousness can never be known as an object. If you say the consciousness is the substratum of the entire universe, immediately we will think that the consciousness one day we can discover scientifically like this. No, that consciousness is different. Our chit can never be discovered as an object. It has to be known by ourselves as I am. No other discovery can be there. The discovery is a self-discovery by itself. If it is discovered as different, then the discovered thing becomes an object. It is inert. That which discovers is the revealer. That is the consciousness. So it can never be known as consciousness. Oh, from consciousness सब कुछ हुआ है. ऐसा नहीं है. It is all, the whole universe is appearing in the consciousness. It is not a constituent block of the universe that it is made of consciousness in this manner. You can never know consciousness as anything object. Am I going to abstract or is it okay? It should not be. That the people will have to find out. They say that generally they find a alpha wave or beta wave something. It is almost like a sine wave. There is no multiple wave coming in. That is what Mahesh Yogi's people have studied and said. I am not sure about it. We can study, but the problem is that how will you know when that man has gone into it? But what they do for a certain period, and the person has to be very truthful to say what has happened to him during that period. Then only you can match, and if there is something very new which is not found in other places. They had once, Swamiji had gone to US in 1970s, and there he was put on ECG and EEG and all, and test was done. So Swamiji asked him that, what did you find? He said, some waves we are finding which we are not known, which is not known to us at all. It's something different. More than that, he could not say anything at that point. But it was not that Swamiji went into Samadhi and they tried. They just wanted to see the normal functioning of the brain, how it is happening. But Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's experimentations have been there. I think they have reported also various things. Also in 80s, in 70s, when I was studying, Harvard University had researched, taken some brain of some yogis and research, and they said that the one hub, which is one hemisphere of the brain which is not developed in the other people, in the yogis case that is quite a lot of development is there. So everybody has the potential to develop in this subtle level is what their conclusion was. Anyway, that I cannot say anything. So after this shloka he says tam yogamiti manyante. This is called the yoga. Sthiram indriya dharanam. When you hold on everything, all the indriyas in a still sense. Why it is called yoga? Because then all other times what is happening is that we are creating a wrong I, positing an egoistic I, small I, limited by the body-mind personality. In this case, that I, egoistic I, is getting fused, merged in that universal, the transcendental I. So that is the yoga. We are always in yoga by creating our I different from the Paramatma, creating an Atma different from the Paramatma. That Atma and Paramatma, they are not different, they are one. So the real yoga is the fusion of the small I with the transcendental I. so that the ego gets dropped. Do you understand? That is why it is called yoga. In Mandukya Karika, I think, he has, Gaudapada has said that yoginaha bibhyati syasmat abhaye bhayadarshinaha. Why even the yogis are not able to reach this? Because they are fearful of the state. What happens is that they start feeling that I am going to die. The small ego, the restricted, constricted ego, falling means what? The I we are attached to so long in my life, that is going to die. So they are fearful of it, they come back from it not experiencing that. Yoginaha bibhyati syasmat abhaye bhayadarshina. But that is the abode of abhaya, abode of fearlessness. And there they find fear. Because of their ego they find fear and come back. Are you able to understand? Abhaye bhayadarshina. When that duality goes, then there is no fear at all. Who will fear whom? So this non-dual state is necessary to become fearless. This is a fearless abode of fearlessness. But the yogis thinking that I am going to die, they are fearful of it. They are not able to reach it, they come back from it. There are a lot of discussions like that. Anyway, this much is enough, I think. What is the difference between happiness as understood in general terms and ananda, which the knowers experience after knowledge? बोलने से भी क्या होगा? बोलने से आपको स्पिरिचुअल बनने की इच्छा चली जाएगी. We say bliss, 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 ananda, 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 but actually the ananda is equally in sukha and dukkha. So it is not the ananda we are clinging to. The bliss we always want to be happy, be happy. Like in this happiness is equally there in dukkha as well as sukha. So you can understand you don't want it. Dukkha nobody wants, no? He will be equally embracing the dukkha. Rather in dukkha the happiness will be deeper, because in dukkha it's not a very usual state. Our mind goes to a deeper level. But he will have, so we generally use the word prasada or placidity here. That ananda for him, ananda is also used, ananda is equally there in sukha and dukkha. It is not the usual sukha what we mean in opposition to dukkha. In sukha and dukkha, it will be equally there. It is a placidity. It is actually a zero state of the mind in a way. You will have sukha, you will have dukkha, but in both you will have a evenness. I don't know whether it will attract you or repel you, but whatever, that is what it is. In the spiritual path, we expect to get the ultimate knowledge and accordingly try to do all karma without desire for the karma phala. But in the process, are we expecting a karma phala in the form of a merger with the Brahman after gaining knowledge? If that be so, then the karma seeking for spiritual knowledge will also be called kamya karma, desireful karma. It is true. Initially, to take away all the multiple desires towards the multiple objects, we have to generate the desire for this self or for God, whatever. Even the love for God or yearning for God realization, that has to be initially there as a desire. But if it is serious and when we become one-pointed, what it does is it belittles all other desires. So people forget all other worldly desires. They have only this desire. But fulfillment will not come till they leave that desire also. So the desire which was helpful initially to take you away from all the desires, that becomes a hindrance. At that point you have to drop the desire. Are you able to follow? Ramakrishna Dev used to say that you have got multiple thorns in the leg. Pass through the forest, there are many thorns. You take one thorn to remove all the thorns. When you have removed all the thorns, are you carrying that thorn in your hand? You throw away that also. Like that, that desire which has helped you to come away from all desires will have to be finally, because that is again that you are looking for something. It is the same experimentally I explained the other day, that in meditation, as long as you are looking for the self, I want to become self-realized, I want to discover the self, you will not be able to. Because by that very process, very effort, you are making yourself small and different from what you are looking. If you can discover self as different from you, then that is not a self. That is only an object before the revealer. Sometimes people ask, who will reveal the self? If something else reveals the self, then that is the self, not what is revealed. So self is the revealer of others as well as revealer of itself. So finally we have to drop it. Initially that is, it is true of many in here. In Bhagavatam it is there, the last line of the shloka is, Yathavarundhe satsangaha sarvasangapaho hi mam. Yathavarundhe satsangaha sarvasangapaho hi mam. I hope I am correct. That satsanga is also a sangha. See, here they are using the word sangha there. They have not called it sat asanga. They are using sat sangha. The sangha for other worldly things have to be replaced by the sangha for the sat, for the truth. But satsanga can be used for sangha for the saint, for the person who has realized also. But basically there also it is the sangha for the truth. That is why you are devoted to the Guru. So satsanga means the attachment to the sat. Now that attachment will sarva sangha apaho, which removes all other sanghas. It will remove all other sanghas. Another question is here, where how does intense bhakti towards a certain idol or deity help to develop vivek and vairagya in a seeker? Viveka and vairagya. Not fully it can, but to the extent it can is because of this, that our bhakti towards the idol will take away all other sangha. That attachment to the sat, like that, the attachment to the idol I am worshipping, will take away all other attachments. Even if your child cries, you will not bother about it. You have the Vrindavana picture, they were leaving, the breastfeeding child also was left. The Gopikas ran to Krishna. That is, they left all their household work and ran to Krishna. The meaning is that that satsanga will help you to keep away from all other sanghas. It will allow you to get relieved from all other sanghas. So whether it is idol or not, it does not matter. The problem with the idol is that in your concept, the idol will be the ultimate, that you are looking for, having a vision of the idol. So when the revealer consciousness is so focused on the idol that you forget the whole world, don't forget, whole world includes your own personality also. You have to forget, I want to see God, that also has to be forgotten. I want to see Shiva, I want to have darshan of Shiva, you will not have darshan. That I has to be forgotten, that I as a separate entity has to be forgotten. Then what happens? Shiva takes hold of your mind. There is nothing other than Shiva, that your God. The whole mind, the consciousness takes the form of the God. That is what we call the darshana of the Lord. Because it becomes real then. You have forgotten you also. You become the Lord. Our Shastras say, Devo bhutva devan apyeti. That means when you become the idol you are worshipping, Deva you are worshipping, then your worship becomes fulfilled. You don't have to worship anymore. You have to go for knowledge. That is different. You understand? When you have completely become the embodiment of your idol, of your Deva, then your worship is fulfilled. That is where we say the vision of the Lord. But what has happened technically is that the consciousness takes the form of the Lord there. It is not revealing the Atma. When that form is not there, then it reveals the Atma. That is why these samadhis are called savikalpa samadhi. There is a vikalpa, the form is there. Vikalpa means the form. So when through idol worship we get into this kind of a vision of samadhi that is completely fused to that, then it is called Savikalpa Samadhi. There should not be anything else, only the idol, only the Lord. That is the only Vikalpa. Whereas in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you don't have any form. So the Atma reveals itself, the consciousness reveals itself. You know the story of Ramakrishna Dev, that he was so devoted to Kali that he was, when Totapuri wanted him to have Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he was finding it very difficult. Because every time Kali appears, because he was absolutely so much intensely devoted to Kali. Finally Totapuri hit his forehead with the, I think some firewood or something there. Hey, kyun nahi hoga? Hona hai? He hit. And immediately he rose beyond that Savikalpa to the Nirvikalpa. That is the beyond Kali. He became formless. And when he entered in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Totapuri got very surprised. अरे ये क्या है, हमें तो ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ कि ये तो घुसा ही है, कभी वापस नहीं आ रहा है. His mind was so intensely one-pointed to Kali that when that Kali was superseded and he went to Nirvikalpa Samadhi also, that one-pointed intensity of the mind kept him in that. He had to be brought back from that state. That happens because the intensity, that is called devotion. Devotion is not only to the temple god or deva or so. To knowledge also, devotion is equally applicable. The intensity of our yearning is called devotion. What is the evaluation criteria to know my own fitness? Whether the Kevala Jnana Nishtha or the path of karma is suitable to me, or both, or some other path. There is no fitness criterion. There is that for the Guru to decide what path should be given to one. You cannot decide yourself your path. But if you are simple, whatever you yearn for, if your aspiration is there, your aspiration will take you to through the proper path. You don't have to worry whether it is jnana path or a karma path or a bhakti path or a mixture of the two. The real path is a synthesis of all. It is neither a jnana nor this, everything synthesis. When it will become kevala jnana nishtha or not will depend. You will come to know that your mind will not go anywhere at all. You will remain with the contemplation of the truth. That is called kevala jnana nishtha. Nobody has to find it. Otherwise, if you artificially try it, you will find that you will not be able to concentrate, you will not be able to contemplate. That means you are not fit, you have to do the karma yoga. So, it is not we analyze that, oh, I have this quality, I have the kevala jnana nishtha, let me go for kevala jnana. That is all artificial. It has to be natural, spontaneous, and the Guru is the best person to tell you what path you should follow. If you try to decide yourself, you don't know where to go, how will you find the path? The goal you have not known. Goal you will know only when you have reached. So you have to show somebody who has reached the goal will have to show you the path. It cannot be seen by oneself. No. Here we are talking about how to decide what is the path. It is depending on the svabhava, but the point here is one cannot decide what path I will take. It will automatically be there out of aspiration. If you cultivate your aspiration so much that all other things go, it will automatically become exclusive jnana nishtha after some time. Till it becomes you have to have all those other things. Even if you decide to be exclusive jnana nishtha and pursue, after some time you may feel that although I have known, but in the world I am not able to behave properly, I still have impurities left. So I have to make the shuddhi again. So after having whatever samadhi this, that and all also, or knowledge also, you have to again do the shuddhi. The shuddhi has not taken place. What will you do? Then you have to interact with people and see whether the shuddhi has come. But it does not take place like that. It all happens automatically in the process. And it is for the Guru to decide. If I am not to look for the self as separate from me during meditation, what should I be doing during meditation? You should not do anything. It's a simple reply. Meditation is to remain effortless, but the tendency will not allow. You will always try to do something. So you always surrender your effort to do anything. If at all you do something, try to surrender your effort. Do you get the meaning? Meditation, you don't have to do anything. Simply leave everything. In meditation, the real meditation is to leave everything, all efforts, all concepts, all preconceived ideas, everything has to be left. If at all we have to do that, to become effortless. Buddhishtana vicheshtati. See, this is the ultimate goal of meditation. Yada panchavatishthante jnanani manasa saha buddhishtana vicheshtati. So you have to do that.